Hello there, welcome to Craft Therapy. It's been a minute since I've done some macrame. That's what we're going to be working on today. Now, I just want to do a little back discussion on the project at hand. I want to make some mats for my kitchen. And my kitchen is a little bit of a weird shape in terms of it's square, but you have various pockets of areas, pockets of counters. For example, I think there are 2 counters plus a peninsula. So I have to account for let me see if I can do a little sketch of it, right? So, my sink is here, and then there's a counter from here to here. My fridge is here, so fridge, sink, then the doorway is here, and then over here there's another counter, and then the stove is here, and then the peninsula is here. Right? So I have this area that I want to put a mat, this area in front of the door that I also want to put a mat, and maybe have it join back over to here, but there's a space between the sink and the door, so the mat would have to be more up here. The sketch is all over the place. And then in front of the peninsula and the stove, I'd also want another mat of some sorts, right? The fridge area between the fridge and the peninsula, maybe. But you get the gist. It's a little bit of a funny shape, but I'm going to be working on this big one first, right? I've already taken the measurements, and it is 30 inches across. Maybe you can't see, so just listen. It's 30 inches across and 50 inches long. So the mat is going to be like this. 30 inches here, 50 inches there. Let me do that conversion for those of you who use centimeters. In Jamaica, we tend to use inches. So 50 inches is about 127 centimeters, and 30 inches is 77 centimeters, right? So I want my mat to be 30 inches across and 50 inches long. Now, here is the conundrum, and I did not notice it until just a while ago when I took up the cords. I usually work with this brand. I don't remember the name of the brand. I'll post it in the description if I remember. It's 328 yards in all, and it's a 3mm cord. Here's what I noticed, because I was wondering to myself, why are these cords so heavy and thick? This is the same brand, same length, 328 yards, but this is 4mm. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. And so definitely I think I'm going to get more bang for my buck using the 4mm. And now that I'm recalling, I think when I was placing the order, I deliberately chose the 4mm because I wanted a thicker cord because of where it's going to be and the wear and tear it's going to go under. So the 4mm is what I'll be using. I just pulled out this pink one for point of reference. Pink is not going in my kitchen, okay? So I'm going to be using the 4mm cord. I have 2 rolls of this because of all of the work I'm doing in the kitchen. And I'm going to get started. Now, this project is going to take a while. It might take a couple of weeks to complete because I'm not going to be sitting here macrameing all day, every day. And because of the nature of it, I am going to break this video into sections in terms of, so this is like a little introduction, but I'm going to be cutting cords today, and that's all I'm doing today. Today is Monday, August 11th. So I'm cutting cords today. And I'm not going to show you the entire cord cutting process either. I'm going to cut one cord and then leave you. And come back when I have all the cords cut. Now, because it's the first time that I am working with the 4mm, my measurements are going to be a bit off. Usually, and this is another video that I hope to do sometime in the future, because I realize that I struggle to have a correct measurement when it comes to cutting my cords. I don't like wasting the cord. The cord is expensive. So when you're finished with a project and you're trimming, inevitably you're trimming off a lot of loose ends. I don't throw them out. Actually, I have a container that I have them in there all measured and sorted and everything. Random color cords. So I have another project that I'll work on with those cut cords. But I don't like to waste cord. So usually the rule of thumb is, well, for me, and this is what I was saying, I think I want to do a video where I sort of give you guys a guide in terms of the length of cord that you need for a project so that you waste as little cord as possible, right? The rule of thumb when I use the 3mm is based on using the square knot, which is what I'm going to be using. It's more compact. You cut the cords 7 times the length of what you need. So if I need 50 inches, if the mat is going to be 50 inches rather, I would multiply that 50 by 7 and I would end up with 350 inches. So I would be cutting each cord 350 inches long. Now, because this is thicker, I'm going to get more out of it, so I would need to cut it shorter. I've never worked with the 4mm, so this is going to be an experiment of sorts. So rather than making it times 7, I'm going to maybe make it times 6 or times 5.5. So if it's times 6, it's going to be 300. If it's times 5.5, so give me a little while with this one. So 5 5 is 25. That's 250. That's what, 275? It's going to be 275 inches per cut. I think I am going to work with the 275 inches. Why? It doesn't matter if the mat is a little bit shorter than the space. It doesn't matter, right? Rather than longer, I prefer to have it shorter, and then I know I adjust the next time around. So I'm going to be cutting cords of 275 inches long. Now the next thing I have to account for is the width. Now usually when we're doing the macrame, we would double the cord and attach it accordingly. So it's going to be looking like this. Right? It's going to be looking like this. So I now have to account for how many of these do I need. Let's take a measurement. So one cord is about 1/2 inch. So if I need 30 inches, I'm going to need about 60 cords, right? So I'm going to need about 60 cords if I'm going to get 30 inches going across. Now the other thing that I have to contend with is looking at this 60, and this is going to be a part of the measurements video in terms of the different calculations. Looking at this 60, I have to make sure that this 60 is divisible by 4. So 4 into 6 goes 1, 4 into 20 goes 5. So it's divisible by 4. But the other thing that I also have to contend with is is this number also divisible by 2? And the explanation is this. When you're doing the knots going across, right, you're working with 4 cords each, which is why it has to be divisible by 4. But when I get out to the end and it's an odd number, the end of the work is going to be kind of harum-scarum. So I need to find a way to get this 15 to be divisible by 4. So it's going to either be 16 or 20, but it has to be divisible by 4. So I'm saying to myself now, I would have to now make this 60, 64, and it would now be 4 into 6 goes 1, 4 into 24 goes what? Talk to me. Goes 6 times. So this 15 is now going to be 16, and that is okay. Alright? So I'm going to start cutting. Again, all of this math I will explain in another video, but I'm going to start cutting, and I'm going to make the first cut on camera and then leave you alone until I have cut all 275 inches long, 64 inches cord, so 64 inches of 275 inches long each. And all I'm doing today is cutting. I will do the video another day when I'm actually mounting them on the rod, and another video when I'm doing the other parts. This is gonna be a long project, but let's get the first cut done now and then sign off for today. Let's get that first cut done. 275 inches is what we want. My tape measure goes up to 120, so I need to measure. So let's go. And when I do these measurements, I have an option. I can either use a tape measure and measure, which I think is a little bit more accurate, or I use a cord as a reference and measure from that. And I find that when I use a cord as reference, for some reason, it slides along, and before you know it, the cord that you had as 275, you start cutting cords closer to 280, 290, and those things waste cord. So that was 120. Let's put another 120 on it for 240. A lot of math involved in macrame, you know. Let's go. 240 is what we want. Another 120 on it. So we're now at 240, and we want to go up to 275. So do the math. 275 minus 240 gives you what? 35. So now we only need 35 inches more. Let's get the 35 inches more and cut. Of course, we're going to discover together if my calculations of 5.5 would work out. You know, before I cut, let me think about this some more. Let me think. Because if the cord is thicker, that means it's going to end up being shorter. You know what? Let us... This is 275. So that was at 35 right here. Why do I feel like I want to stick with my 350? I think I'm going to stick with my 350. So I need to put on 75 more. So 75 and 35 give you what? 110. So let's go up to 110. Hope my math is mathing correctly. Yeah, it would be 110 because 240 from 350 gives you 110. So let's go up to 110. Because if it was 240 times 3, it would be 360. Right? And this is 120. So that would have been 360 if I went up to 120. But we're doing 110. 110. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking that the thicker the cord, the bulkier it's going to be, so the more cord you're going to end up using. Guess what? If I'm wrong and this ends up being a little bit too long, I will know how to adjust the next time around. But we have one cord cut. I have 63 more to cut at 350 each. I'll bring you back another day when I'm done cutting all of them for us to mount them and secure them on the pole, and then we can get our project started. Look at the time. (1:46 p.m. on Monday, August 11th. I started this cutting. I should have made a note of the time I started cutting, but I maybe took 2 breaks of maybe 2 minutes each. One was to get my dog food on the fire, the other was to go season it after a couple hours. So I've been sitting here since I paused the video and started cutting until now. I'm really trying to remember at what point I really started cutting in terms of time. It was maybe about 9-ish, yeah. So let's give and take an hour. So let's just say we started at 10. This is why I don't do macrame in one day, right? This is just the cutting, and this is a very short project in terms of just 50 inches. So you can imagine if it was a longer project, like maybe a full-length curtain or a tablecloth or something. This is just the cutting. So I'm not going to even try and count them with you, but trust me when I say I have 64 pieces of cord of 350 inches each. It took almost my 2 rolls. Let me show you what I have left. All I have left of one of the second roll is this. This is all I have left. So it took almost my 2 rolls. So it tells me that for future projects, if I'm going to be doing anything longer than what this project is going to be, I'm going to need many more rolls. But let me not get ahead of myself. First of all, what I want to see is just how close I would have come to the actual size that I want for this project with these cords, with the 4mm. If the 4mm is giving me what I want, it may be a game changer. I may use like the 2 or the 3mm for lighter projects, like little valances and stuff like that. For the heavy duty work, I'm gonna work with the 4mm if this project turns out right. So that's it for today. I'll bring you back when I am ready to mount them on the pole. I don't know when that will be. I have a couple things ahead of me. For argument's sake, tomorrow I'm picking up something that I'll be using for this week's video. But this definitely won't see this until maybe a couple weeks from now. I'm not going to be sitting and macrameing all day, every day. I've done that before in the past, putting in like 10-hour days, and the project still took a little while. I don't plan to do that this time around. So I'll see you when I get to mounting. I will do the date stamp just for us to have an idea as to how long I'm taking on this project. So see you in a couple days or maybe a week or 2 for me, but just another second for you. Alright, today is Sunday, August 17th, and I'm going to start loading these onto my rod. I'm not going to show you all 64 all 64 of them. Just gonna show you one and then go off camera. We're using the lark's head knot. The lark's head knot starts by going over. So this is already doubled. Based on how I packaged them, I know I doubled them already. It starts by going over and through. Bring all of that through. It's a lot. Can you imagine if this piece was supposed to be longer than 50 inches? Yeah? That's it. So you should have your loop coming across on top there. But I'm not done. Because what I also do, because these ends are going to get in the way, some persons tape the ends. I just do a little roly to keep them out of the way. Let me bring it in a little bit closer for that. All right. So I just pull away a little bit from here because you want some space to work just the same. And I just roll it around my hand. Kind of guesstimate maybe about 18 inches on the tail. Then I secure it. And I do that for each cord twice because it's 2 tails per cord, right? So I'm going to be putting them on and then securing them, because if I don't secure them as I go, they're going to get tangled. So that's going to be 64 times 2 is 128 tails. So I have 127 tails left to do. Again, this is just going to be what I'm doing today. I might start a row if time allows. I'm going out of town for a week starting tomorrow. So if I can get them loaded and just leave them for the week, that's fine. If not, well, not if not, but if I can do even one row, just to show you what it's looking like, that's fine. I'm also going to have to change the angle of the camera when I get to the actual doing of the mat. So let's get on with loading and securing. All right. So they're all mounted. It took me 2 hours to do all of this. Now I'm looking at the lighting. I don't like the lighting, of course, but if I turn this on, I don't think it's a good effect, and my setup is not conducive to having ring lights or anything mounted closer, etc, etc. I don't have a GoPro to put on my forehead so you can see it from my point. I don't have any of that. So the intention wasn't to do it blow by blow like I did with my crochet skirt, but just to kind of give you an idea in terms of what the setup is like. So the camera is mounted on the tripod, which is behind my chair. I can't get to my chair in terms of to sit, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see what I'm doing, but for all intents and purposes, just know that all of this is going to be a square knot design. So it looks really dark. I'm just going to be doing square knots going all the way across, and that's pretty much going to be the entire design for the whole 50 inches. What I might have to do is just take pictures and insert as I go along in terms of the different levels. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is going to be mounted for a couple weeks. Well, maybe when I come back next week Saturday, let us see how it goes now, in terms of if I do a couple rows each day. We're in the middle, third week of August, heading into September. Let's see if I can have it finished sometime in September. Alright, so I don't know how to fix the lighting. I don't know how to fix the seating to make sure that you all can see what I'm doing. Well, let me pause and sit and then see. Let me pause. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing. So guess what? I'm just going to get started. If anything, when I come back from my little vacation, I will try and set up outside on the veranda where I've done projects like this before. And maybe the lighting being more natural, you'll have a better view. So yeah, I'm still gonna get started on at least one row, but I will try the veranda setup when I get back. Welcome back. Today is Saturday, September 6th, I believe, and this is where we are so far. I haven't measured it to see how many of the 50 inches it is so far, but like I said, I am giving a different angle. I'm on my veranda, so let us see how long it takes us to do one row. I'm not going to hold you captive for the entirety of the thing, but let's see how long it takes us to do one row. So that's one row done. Technically it took me almost half an hour, but admittedly I had to be untangling these at the bottom. So the longer this gets, the shorter these will get and the faster I will go. So if one row takes half an hour, and it's a lot of rows, you can imagine how long it's actually going to take me to complete this project. But let's soldier on. Won't hold you captive. I'll bring you back when I'm done with quite a bit more, and we'll keep it going. Good morning. Plane passing overhead. Today is Sunday, October 12th, and let me let the plane finish passing. It's a rainy morning here in Jamaica. This has been finished since the 1st of October, I believe. Yeah. But time flies. It's a little bit longer than the 50 inches that I wanted, but that's the least of the apostles. What I've been trying to figure out is how to do the ends. So I'm gonna take it down and figure out what I want to do with the ends, if I want to tie them off, or if I want to use a clove hitch, or if I want to experiment and try and find a non-fringe way of finishing it off. So I'm going to take it down from its perch, get it flatter, and finish off this mat. I'm using my phone for this footage because I couldn't be bothered to take the camera down off its perch. So yeah, we're nearing the end of this project. Today is Monday, October 13, and the ends are all done. All done. I decided to use the clove hitch because tying off would have been quite tedious, and trying to find another way to do it would also have been kind of tedious. So it's all done. So the next thing that you're gonna see is the mat in place in the kitchen. A minute or two for me, a second for you. All right, be back in a few. Here it is, 50 inches. Yep, fits perfectly in the space, matches my cupboards. Perfect fit. Well, it's a little bit longer than 50 inches. The fringes I didn't account for, but yeah, this is it. So this is the end of a massive project. Started sometime in August, I believe. Had I been working on it all day, every day, it would have taken me a couple days at the most, because each row takes half an hour, and there are a couple hundred rows here. You do the math. But anyway, that's it for this project. So thank you for having joined me for craft therapy. Remember, keep those hands busy so that your mind will be at peace. Happy crafting.